In 2008, a drunken pilot flew a plane to Russia. Passengers also noticed his intoxication. The fact that he was intoxicated made them all ruined. Why such a tragedy happened and who was the pilot of the plane? Before we start our story, if you are new to this channel, please subscribe, and don't forget to like this video, so you are always updated in life amazing stories. Their boarded aircraft was the Aeroflot 821 Boeing 737-500. It is a model aircraft with a capacity of 114 people. It is owned by Aeroflot, the flag carrier flight in Russia. This aircraft was operated by two pilots, Captain Rodion Medvedev, 34 years old with a total flight record of 3,600 hours, he was the pilot flying intoxicated. Later we find out why he was intoxicated. His companion named Rustam Labradin, 43 years old with a total flight record of 8,700 hours. Total of a pilot's flight record is important to know the level of experience and ability of a pilot. To operate an airplane before you can apply to an airline as a pilot, you must have a minimum of 1,500 hours of flight experience. Captain Rodion Medvedev came from a simple family and worked hard to study until he finished and became a pilot. When he had the opportunity to make big money, he started building his own family, but he was gradually addicted to alcohol, and his work was already affected. While he was also nearly eliminated for the night before his last flight, he even met his friends for a birthday party and he was drunk all night. What happens next is not expected due to the influence of wine. Whereas First Officer Labradin came from a wealthy family caused to finish his education and get into work, with the help and influence of his family. Even though he fell into class several times, and during his training he became a first officer. On September 14, 2008, at 3 o'clock, the aircraft Aeroflot Flight 821 flies from Moscow, Russia to the firm. With a total drive of 2 hours, 2 pilots and about 40 and 82 passengers. Meanwhile, as passengers boarded, one of them even sent a text message to her friend, saying he looked like the captain of the plane was drunk. Something that will play a big role in what happens next. Aeroflot 821 moved from Moscow, Russia, and about 2 hours later the plane scheduled landed at 4:50 a.m. at the firm's airport. Quite cloudy and windy during that time. At these times the captain spoke to his passengers. Because of this, there is something wrong with what the captain says about the length of the flight, and the very time the plane was over, which he made the afternoon in the morning of that time. Despite the ongoing conversation of two pilots where ATC, or what they called the air traffic controller, or the people who give direction to the pilots of all the plane, in the air before it lands, here the ATC has ordered 2 pilots to begin descending as a preparation for them landing. But the route changed. Another plane will take off using the same runway. They will be covered. The captain is angry, while the Aeroflot 821 is waiting to clear the runway for them braking. It rotates first in the air while still out of direction given the ATC. In the midst of what happened, the first officer asked the captain twice what to do with the flaps. This is the part of wing plane needed to adjust every flight and in landing. To hear the captain's question, he answered angrily. But with the knowledge of passengers and ATC, there is a small problem. The plane, its 2 engines do not provide the same power to the plane with a 30% engine, losing its auto throttle or the fuel control on airplane engines. As a result, the first officer had to support the plane manually to make it even more wide. This problem was also complained by former pilots holding the Aeroflot 821. A few minutes later, the captain asked the ATC how long we had before gone down. The ATC answered it and ordered them to lower the airplane until 2,000 feet. The captain quickly obeyed and confirmed that they were going back to the runway and the plane will be lowered as directed at the ATC. Because of the lost auto throttle of the plane and only controlling it manually by first officer, the plane has begun to the left direction they are going to take. That should be right for them. To be honest, the runway of the airport has neglected 2 pilots in monitoring the controls of the plane. And this time, instead of getting off the plane at 2,000 feet, It has increased its flow from 2,400 feet to 3,200 feet, while still turning left. The ATC noticed that he asked the captain if they were really rising. The captain quickly confirmed and said they were going down again. Minutes later, ATC revenue surpassed the Aeroflot 821 in the direction and the angle of the airport. Again, the ATC ordered. The captain repeats their landing attempt, but it has no answer within the plane. The first officer is in panic at the plane continuing in the left direction. He gives the captain's control. But this is his answer taken by the captain, the control of the plane. And instead of turning it over to the right of the plane, it was hit to the left as the first officer angrily spoke to the captain. As a result, the plane was spinning in the air and was out of control. Just minutes after 5:10 a.m., the plane crashed Aeroflot 821 on the train railroad in the Firm City that had cut off 82 lives of passengers, 7 are all children, and 6 of them are crews. In the force of its collapse nearly turned to ashes that even in a steel plane, as the body of passengers are parted. It emptied in TV, radio, newspaper news, and had a various speculation of what was the reason for the collapse. The Russian country investigate, other American specialists and the makers of the plane. At first there were witnesses saying they saw the plane on fire as it collapsed on the ground as the investigators opposed it. Because they were impossible to see the plane because of the rain and the thickness of the cloud about that time. But the second angle was in fact, that looks investigators or the possibility of having an engine failure plane. Because of this problem, it was a pilot's complaint and it was possible to blink in the air and it will be collapsed. A few days later a thorough investigation was completed and they discovered 2 facts. The first conclusion caused them 2 pilots was inexperience. Captain Medvedev had a total flight time of only 400 hours as captain, while the first officer Laberton had 219 hours of flight time only for the Boeing 737 model Aeroflot Flight 821. In addition, they also found that the 2 pilots were only trained to operate the old model planes. And based on the academic record they held, the first captain dropped 3 times in training for the Boeing 737. And due to noticed by ATC as if the captain was not on his own. Every time he spoke there was also speculation that this drunken thing was proven. When forensic experts found the trace of alcohol in his body, the captain had drunk a lot of wine before it rode and operate the plane. The result of the investigation collapse, that Aeroflot Flight 821 which was turned to the death of 88 passengers. Due to the lack of experience of 2 pilots, then joined the intoxicating captain of the plane. Despite many still not carrying on the effect of wine. In 2015, several staff members as well as the pilot of an airline company were arrested for drinking alcohol, hours before their scheduled flight. So far, law has been made to prevent the presence of drunk pilots and staff inside airlines, wirelessly doing alcohol tests on their staff before it flies. I think there should be legislation for it to further ensure the safety of passengers, as this is their job and duty as they have sworn, and not to deliver passengers at certain peril just because of their irresponsibility and neglect. Thank you for watching.